So after living here for 6 weeks, I went back to San Francisco, and that's when the training happened. And within 2 years, I moved back. So now I put the ad in the paper, and the gentleman invites me to go to his group, and I go to the group to sit in.
This is Rich Panza.
Rich Panza, Dr. Rich Panza, and he says to me, just jump in and work with anyone you want. And of course, I didn't know that's what he was going to say to me. I just thought he was inviting me to sit in on his group, and I was so happy that there was someone that was having a group here. And so I began to spontaneously just work with people as it arose for me to work with. And after about 2, maybe 3 months, he announced at the group that he was moving back to California and leaving Hawaii, and he recommended that everyone in the group come and work with me.
Oh, jeez.
So he handed me my practice.
Oh, my goodness. After being here for 3 months?
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
And that was pretty miraculous.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
Oh.
And it turned out that the majority of those students were students of the Maui Zendo,
Oh, there's
who
the
meditated. And so their teacher, whose name is Robert Aiken, who was actually the first American ever chosen to be a Roshi, which is a very high-level master in Zen. He was the Roshi for all of Hawaii and Australia. He since has retired. And he wanted to meet me because his students were seeing me for counseling. And so he invited me to lunch, and we had lunch together, and he asked me about my meditation practice and what my experience was. And after that lunch, he went back and he told his students that it was very good if they worked with me. And he began to send students to me, other than the people who were in the original group that Dr. Panza had turned over to me. And then in time, within that year, he would have 3-month live-in retreats. So people would come from all over and live at the Maui Zendo in Haiku, and they would be at a 3-month retreat. And he invited me to come and do Gestalt therapy with everyone who was attending the 3-month retreat.
Is this the period of time, was this the ashram that you lived in?
No, I never lived at the Zendo at all.
You never lived at the Zendo?
No.
But you did live in an ashram?
I went for 3 months to an ashram in India. And
it's secretive. You don't mention who it is.
Well,
is that
it's
correct?
not that it's secretive. It's just that my teachers prefer to be anonymous.
Okay.
The teaching is for everyone, and the teaching is that God dwells in each of us, and to see God in each other.
So this is 1981. And while you were there for that 3 months, you got flooded with what you call one-line truths.
Yes.
And this is where you first saw your purpose, to assist people in becoming clear and alleviate suffering.
Yes. Yes.
So what came from that? What came from that experience for you?
Well, at first, when these one-line truths started coming through me, when I realized that it wasn't just happenstance, that this was really coming one after another, I mean, there were 200 of them, so I went and I got a little book, and I just wrote them down. And with no greater purpose in mind, except that I knew that I was being given very important information. And I felt, therefore, I needed to record it. And then, after I left India after 3 months, I met my husband and we went to Europe. And while I was in Europe, I was sharing this with him. And as I began to read them, I realized that they fit into categories. And so I made up little symbols. So one category was relationship, and another was communication, another was self-awareness, another was transformation or liberation, another was self-esteem. They just fit into different topics. And I thought that was really kind of amazing.
And that really segues into what's going on with you right now, which is something you are tremendously passionate about, which is this website that you've taken. You've coalesced 35 years of experience with Gestalt, with everything you've done, and you're putting it into this website. The website should be under your name on the screen for people to see so they can explore it.
Yes.
Talk about the website, what it means to you, and how you feel people can benefit from it.
Well, you know, in a way I was very blessed because I did not go through the normal path of you go to college, you get your PhD or you get your MD, and now you're schooled in all these different methodologies, and then you go and you teach. Because that wasn't the way it happened for me. Places inside me opened up, and I knew things. So what happened was I realized that many people who are in therapy would not be in therapy if we, as children, had been taught life skills, how to communicate clearly, how to be in relationship, how to have high self-esteem, how to be aware of what's going on inside of us, and how that controls what we do outside in the world with others. That if we had been taught this, if we had been taught problem-solving techniques and things that all of us need in our daily lives, whether personally or professionally, that many of our difficulties, not only that we have in our relationships, but in our community, in our country, in the world, would be able to be resolved very differently. And so I began to know that these are skills, and they're teachable skills, that if a teacher is expert enough, and you can only be an expert if you've done the work on yourself, so let me make that very clear. An expert is not someone who's read the books and therefore knows. And to me, an expert is someone who knows in their heart and their mind, and that mind and heart are speaking from the same place. So it's an experience, and that can only come through working through your own issues, completing your own gestalts. And as a teacher does that, then that teacher is then able to assist the person who comes to them, because no teacher can take a student further than they have gone. It's not possible.
Yeah.
And so, realizing that these were skills, I would never allow anyone to call me a therapist. I would never allow anyone to call themselves a patient. I'd say, I'm not a doctor, and you're not a patient, and you're not sick. And I am not diagnosing you. I'm assisting you by knowing the right questions to ask you, how to go within to the answers you need to know in order for you to create the life you desire.
Yeah.
And the website is the culmination of that dream. One of being guided and knowing that my purpose in life is to assist people in becoming clear and assist people in learning how to alleviate their suffering.
There's a one-liner, one of your one-liners, I don't know if it's yours, that you said to me when we were talking earlier. We learned how to manipulate and called that communication.
Yes.
And I thought that that is so powerful. We learned how to manipulate and call that communication, and that if we're not being clear, that we're either being aggressive or we're being passive-aggressive.
Right. And most people it's easier to recognize if someone's being aggressive. Most of us don't even know when we're being passive-aggressive. And if someone would point it out to us, we would deny it and defend ourselves. And that's because it is so common and it is so accepted that it's invisible.